You beg to be understood while predators study you. That weakness exposes patterns, leverage, and timing. Understanding others first is domination, morality last. You were trained to crave understanding, to explain yourself, to clarify intentions, to seek agreement. That conditioning did not make you noble, it made you legible. Legibility is not virtue. It is vulnerability. In every human interaction, there is a lens deciding who is exposed and who is insulated. You were taught to point that lens inward, broadcasting motives, emotions, and reasoning, believing clarity creates safety. That belief is primitive. In competitive environments, clarity is a confession. Power begins with asymmetry. The moment you seek to be understood first, you surrender that asymmetry. You reveal priorities, fears, thresholds. You announce what moves you and what stops you. The other party does not need to be smarter than you, only quieter. Observation beats expression every time. Understand this. Humans cannot help but leak patterns. Speech cadence, moral justifications, emotional spikes, defensiveness, these are not accidents. They are signals. When you explain yourself, you are not persuading. You are mapping yourself for whoever is watching. Predators don't argue. They catalog. The lens must be reversed. You do not enter interactions to be known. You enter to know. You do not clarify intentions. You study reactions. You do not volunteer context. You extract it. Silence becomes a scalpel. Questions become traps. Presence becomes pressure. This reversal feels unnatural because it violates social conditioning. Society rewards transparency because transparency keeps systems stable. Stable systems benefit those already on top. If you are not on top, transparency is obedience disguised as honesty. Look closely at how dominance actually operates. Kings did not explain themselves to subjects. Generals did not reveal strategy to soldiers. Judges do not debate defendants. Authority flows downward, observation flows upward. When you flip that flow, you invert the hierarchy against yourself. You've mistaken being understood for being respected. They are not the same. Respect follows unpredictability, not openness. People defer to what they cannot fully read. They test what they can. When you are easily understood, you are easily tested. When you are tested, you are already beneath. This is why the first move in power is withdrawal, not physical, perceptual. You pull your inner world back behind armor. You stop narrating your decisions. You stop justifying your boundaries. You let others talk. You let them explain. You let them reveal what they think is safe to show. Most men fail here because they fear misinterpretation. They rush to correct narratives, to defend character, to repair image. That panic exposes hierarchy. The one who fears misunderstanding is already subordinate to the audience. Sovereignty does not ask for accurate interpretation. It imposes outcomes. Reversing the lens does not mean hostility. It means control. You are present, alert, unreadable. You give just enough to remain engaged, never enough to be decoded. You watch how people behave when they think they are not being watched, because they always reveal more than they intend. This chapter is not about manipulation. It is about position. Once you stop seeking understanding, you reclaim leverage. You begin every interaction with surplus information and exit with more than you entered. Over time, this compounds. You stop reacting. You start selecting. The old instinct, to be known, to be validated, to be seen clearly, must be suspended. Not destroyed yet. Suspended. In its place, you adopt a colder operating principle. The one who understands first decides last. And the one who decides last controls the board. Every hierarchy is built on uneven knowledge. Strip away titles, morality, and noise, and what remains is simple. The one who knows more decides more. The rest comply without realizing why. You were taught to believe information wants to be shared. That transparency builds trust. That honesty creates alignment. This is a civilian fantasy. In reality, information is currency. And like any currency, it only holds value when it is scarce and controlled. The asymmetry begins the moment two people meet. One speaks more. One listens more. The speaker feels active, expressive, alive. The listener appears passive. This illusion reverses the truth. The speaker is spending. The listener is accumulating. Every sentence you offer carries metadata. Not just what you say, but how you say it. Speed reveals urgency. Justification reveals insecurity. Over-explanation reveals fear of judgment. You may believe you are clarifying. What you are actually doing is surrendering leverage in small, irreversible increments. Information asymmetry does not require deception. That is amateur thinking. Deception is noisy and risky. Control is quiet. The highest leverage move is selective absence. You simply do not offer what is not strategically necessary. Notice how institutions operate. Banks do not explain algorithms. Courts do not disclose deliberations. Intelligence agencies redact. The more power an entity holds, the less it explains itself. This is not arrogance. It is defense. When you explain yourself early, you collapse uncertainty. Uncertainty is where power lives. While others guess your intent, they hesitate. They test lightly. They move slower. The moment they understand you, hesitation disappears. You become manageable. This is why dominant figures often appear vague. Their statements are open-ended, non-committal, directional rather than declarative. They allow others to project assumptions, then exploit those assumptions later. You cannot outmaneuver what you have already defined. Most men leak information because they confuse expression with agency. They feel strong when speaking, decisive when explaining, important when being listened to. This is dopamine, not dominance. Real dominance feels dull, quiet, often invisible. Asymmetry also creates psychological pressure. When someone knows you less than you know them, they feel imbalance even if they can't articulate it. Humans instinctively seek equilibrium. They talk more. They reveal more. They fill silence with confession. Silence becomes gravity. This is where discipline matters. The instinct to fill space must be killed. You learn to tolerate discomfort, yours and theirs. You allow pauses to stretch. You let others resolve tension with words while you resolve it with data. There is also a moral trap here. You may feel withholding information is unfair. This is conditioning again. Fairness is a social lubricant, not a survival principle. Nature does not reward fairness. It rewards adaptation. Those who share too freely are consumed by those who don't. Information asymmetry compounds. Early restraint gives you later options. You can always reveal more. You can never unreveal. Once a weakness is known, it is archived, stored, recalled at the worst moment. This is not paranoia. This is pattern recognition. Understand the shift. Your goal is not to be mysterious. Mystery attracts attention. Attention invites challenge. Your goal is to be opaque, present, functional, and difficult to read. No sharp edges. No emotional tells. No unnecessary detail. As you practice this, interactions change. People speak differently around you. They ask more questions. They probe. They test. That is data. You are not resisting them. You are letting them show you how they think. By the end of this chapter, one rule should be burned into you. Whoever explains first loses leverage. And leverage, not virtue, decides outcomes. Every environment sorts men into roles long before results appear. These roles are not chosen consciously. They emerge from behavior under uncertainty. And once assigned, they are difficult to escape. There are 3 dominant archetypes. Not personalities. Positions. The first is the naive. He believes communication equals clarity, and clarity equals safety. He explains motives, shares intentions, and signals goodwill early. He believes transparency disarms threat. In reality, it advertises him as safe to exploit. The naive overshares because he wants alignment. He fears misinterpretation more than manipulation. He corrects others quickly, defends himself reflexively, and offers context nobody asked for. He mistakes responsiveness for competence. This is why he is always busy and rarely in control. The second archetype is the predator. He does not overshare. He extracts. He watches patterns, stores reactions, and waits. The predator does not rush to act because he understands timing is leverage. He lets others reveal themselves first. But the predator has a flaw: hunger. He moves too directly once opportunity appears. He enjoys dominance and often exposes intent too early. His aggression creates enemies. His victories are visible, and visibility invites retaliation. Predators win fast and lose violently. The third archetype is the strategist. He is neither open nor aggressive. He is selective. He speaks to position, not to express. He does not seek advantage immediately, he builds it silently. The strategist understands something the others don't. People reveal more when they feel unthreatened. So he appears reasonable, calm, even cooperative. This is not weakness. It is camouflage. While the naive is trying to be liked, and the predator is trying to dominate, the strategist is mapping the terrain. He observes who talks when uncertain, who deflects, who overjustifies, who becomes emotional under mild pressure. These signals expose future behavior with surgical accuracy. The strategist rarely corrects others. Correction reveals investment. Instead, he lets misconceptions breathe. Misconceptions are leverage later. He allows people to believe what suits them now, and uses that belief against them when it matters. Most men believe the predator is the apex role. That belief comes from movies and shallow history. In reality, predators are tools. Strategists use them. They deploy predators to apply pressure while remaining unexposed themselves. This is where most men become uncomfortable. They want moral clarity. They want to know who is good or bad. That binary is for children. In real systems, there are only functions. The naive feeds. The predator enforces. The strategist governs. Your current role is not a judgment, it is a diagnosis. If you often feel misunderstood, overworked, or taken advantage of, you are likely naive. If you often feel resisted, challenged, or surrounded by enemies, you are likely predator. If you are rarely surprised and rarely rushed, you are closer to strategist. The transition is not immediate. You cannot jump archetypes by imitation. Acting predatory without discipline exposes you. Acting strategic without restraint makes you passive. The shift requires internal silence. You stop reacting to perceived slights. You stop proving intelligence. You stop performing strength. You let others move first, speak first, commit first. This creates a vacuum. Vacuums pull truth. Over time, people categorize themselves around you. They either talk too much or become cautious. Both outcomes serve you. The talkers give you data. The cautious reveal respect or fear. Either way, you are no longer guessing. This chapter exists to kill confusion. You are not unlucky. You are not misunderstood. You have been playing the wrong role in a system that punishes openness and rewards restraint. From here, the danger escalates. Because once you understand the roles, you begin to see how they repeat across history, and how rarely mercy appears. History does not reward virtue. It preserves outcomes. And the outcomes you study, empires rising, rivals erased, kings surviving betrayal, are never decided by those who sought to be understood. The men who disappeared first were always the most transparent. They spoke plainly, trusted alliances, and mistook shared values for shared interests. History does not remember them because exposure leaves no legacy, only vacancies. Look at courts, councils, and inner circles across time. The loud moralist was removed early. The passionate reformer was neutralized. The one who explained too much became predictable. Predictability is a death sentence in political environments. The quiet killers were different. They spoke last, rarely clarified intent, and allowed others to misread them. This was not because they were clever conversationalists, but because they understood human nature. People project motives faster than they verify facts. Projection is the lever of history. When you do not define yourself, others do it for you. When they define you, they relax. When they relax, they reveal vulnerabilities. This is how bloodless victories occur. Most executions, literal or social, were preceded by overconfidence. That overconfidence came from understanding the target. The target explained beliefs, grievances, values. They were legible. They were neutralized before they realized the threat existed. You see this pattern repeat in modern systems. Corporate purges, political sidelining, social exile. The man who insists on transparency becomes a liability. The man who withholds becomes a question mark. Systems fear question marks more than rebels. Notice how real power moves during crises. Leaders stop explaining. Information tightens. Statements shorten. Decisions accelerate. This is not chaos, it is clarity under pressure. When survival is at stake, explanation is abandoned. History also shows something uncomfortable. Those who survived longest were not the strongest or smartest. They were the least emotionally exposed. They did not need to be admired or understood. They needed to persist. Every purge, betrayal, and consolidation followed the same script. The open were identified. The aggressive were redirected. The silent consolidated control. This is not cynicism. It is observation. Human nature has not evolved past this. Technology changes speed, not instinct. Men still reveal themselves when they talk. Institutions still eliminate liabilities. Alliances still fracture when incentives shift. The danger is subtle. You are not destroyed by enemies. You are dismantled by people who understand you. They know what you value. They know what you will tolerate. They know how far they can push before you react. Understanding is not neutral, it is weaponized. Once someone understands you better than you understand them, the outcome is already delayed, not avoided. This chapter is meant to remove nostalgia. There was never a golden age where honesty protected the exposed. Survival has always favored restraint, ambiguity, and timing. If you are still seeking to be understood, you are aligning yourself with the losers history forgot. And history is unforgiving to those who repeat its errors. From here, the question is no longer whether the threat exists, but whether you will adapt before selection occurs. Once you accept the threat, sentimentality becomes a liability. The next move is not emotional hardening, it is behavioral precision. You do not become louder. You do not become colder. You become harder to read. Opacity is not silence. Silence is obvious and attracts suspicion. Opacity is controlled output. You speak, but you reveal nothing unnecessary. You act, but your motives remain unconfirmed. You are present without being decoded. The first discipline is speech reduction. Not minimalism, filtration. Before speaking, you ask a single internal question. Does this increase or decrease my leverage? If the answer is unclear, you withhold. You do not explain decisions that have already been made. Explanation invites negotiation. Negotiation invites erosion. The second discipline is question dominance. You redirect conversations away from self-disclosure and toward extraction. Not interrogation. Curiosity without urgency. People expose priorities when they believe they are steering the exchange. You let them believe that. Questions framed as interest disarm defenses. While they speak, you track inconsistencies, emotional spikes, and narrative gaps. You are not reacting. You are indexing. Every conversation becomes reconnaissance. The third discipline is emotional neutrality. This is the hardest. Emotional reactions compress timelines. They tell others where the pressure points are. You do not reward provocation with reaction. You do not punish disrespect immediately. Immediate responses feel powerful but destroy long-term leverage. Delay is dominance. When you do not respond on expected timelines, others recalibrate. They question their position. They review their moves. They self-correct in your favor. This costs you nothing and gains you ground. Next is selective visibility. You do not disappear. Disappearance creates myths, and myths attract hunters. You remain functional, reliable, and boring. Predictable in output, unpredictable in intention. This balance keeps you off radar while preserving access. You also stop volunteering morality. Moral declarations are anchors others use to manipulate you. When people know what you would never do, they design strategies around that restraint. You do not announce limits. You enforce them when crossed. Opacity also means resisting confession culture. You do not trauma bond. You do not overshare struggles. Vulnerability in uncontrolled environments is unpaid labor for future exploitation. Strength is not pretending you feel nothing. It is choosing where truth is stored. As this behavior compounds, you will notice a shift. People will test you less directly. They will probe indirectly. They will ask others about you. This is progress. You are no longer transparent enough to be handled casually. Some will label you distant. Others will call you strategic. Both are irrelevant. Labels are attempts to reduce uncertainty. You do not correct them. You let them guess. Operating from opacity does not isolate you. It positions you. You still form alliances, but they are conditional. You still cooperate, but without exposure. You move in systems without becoming a part of them. This chapter is not about becoming untouchable. That is fantasy. It is about becoming costly to misjudge. When misjudgment carries consequence, behavior around you improves automatically. By now, one thing should be clear: power is not taken by force alone. It is accumulated through restraint. And restraint, applied consistently, becomes dominance. This is where most men fail. Not because the strategy is unclear, but because it demands a death they resist. The old identity was built for approval. It learned early that being understood felt like safety. That explaining yourself reduced conflict. That clarity earned acceptance. That identity kept you alive in small systems. It will get you eliminated in larger ones. You cannot lay a power on top of that identity. You must amputate it. The need to be understood is not a preference, it is an addiction. It produces relief when others agree with your intentions. It produces anxiety when they don't. That emotional dependency hands control to whoever withholds validation. As long as you crave accurate interpretation, you are governed by the audience. Your behavior adjusts to perception. Your decisions bend to optics. You are no longer acting, you are performing. Identity death begins with detachment from explanation. You stop narrating your internal logic. You stop correcting false assumptions in real time. You allow others to misunderstand you when the misunderstanding costs you nothing. This feels dangerous at first. It is not. It is liberating. Misunderstanding is not a threat. It is a buffer. When people misunderstand you, they act on false models. False models produce mistakes. Those mistakes create openings. The old identity would rush to clarify. The new identity waits. This is the replacement, a man who measures success by outcomes, not perception. He does not need to be seen as good, fair, or consistent. He needs to be effective. Consistency is for systems. Adaptability is for survivors. Emotionally, this feels like loss. You will feel colder, quieter, less reactive. Some relationships will decay. They were built on access to your inner world, not mutual respect. Their collapse is confirmation, not tragedy. You also relinquish the urge to defend your name. Reputation defense is reactive. It keeps you in other people's frames. Instead, you let time and results speak. Results rewrite narratives faster than arguments ever could. The new identity does not chase control. It creates conditions where control emerges naturally. Others self-regulate around you. They think before acting. They hesitate before testing. They adjust without being told why. This identity is not cruel. Cruelty is inefficient. It attracts attention and resistance. This identity is surgical. It removes weaknesses without ceremony. Most importantly, this man is internally sovereign. He does not need emotional permission to act. He does not need consensus to decide. He does not need understanding to proceed. The death is complete when one instinct disappears, the urge to explain yourself to be safe. Once that urge is gone, your posture changes. Your timing sharpens. Your presence carries weight without effort. You stop being managed by interpretation. You are no longer readable enough to be used. There is no announcement when selection begins. No signal flare. No ceremony. By the time most men realize they are being evaluated, their position has already been assigned. Selection does not look like attack. It looks like opportunity. Invitations. Conversations. Feedback. Inclusion. These are not rewards, they are probes. Every system tests before it commits. And it tests by observing who explains, who resists, who reveals. If you are still explaining yourself, you are still being sorted downward. The final warning is simple. You are not being judged by what you say, but by what you protect. Systems do not elevate those who offer themselves freely. They elevate those who are costly to read and difficult to predict. Most men think danger comes from enemies. It doesn't. It comes from those who smile, listen, and understand you completely. That understanding becomes a file. That file becomes leverage. Leverage becomes control. You do not get a second transition. Once you are categorized as transparent, you stay there. Attempts to reverse it look artificial. Forced. Late. This is why the shift must happen before you need it. From this point forward, you either operate as a surface, absorbing pressure, displaying everything, or as depth, concealing structure, resisting force. Surfaces are worn down. Depth endures. There is no moral victory waiting at the end of this path. No applause. No public recognition. Power does not congratulate those who adapt. It simply stops testing them. The elite do not announce themselves. They are recognized by absence, absence of leakage, absence of reaction, absence of explanation. If you apply nothing from this, understand one thing. The world is not neutral, and neither are the people in it. You are either being studied or doing the studying. There is no third position. The final choice is not whether you agree with this. Agreement is irrelevant. The choice is whether you will continue to make yourself legible, or become strategically invisible. You already know which side survives.